Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gav Major and this is Admiralty Reports. Admiralty Reports is your gameplay submissions with my commentary, basically a community spotlight video. And today we have a submission from YTBrandonABC, who is playing in the United States Tier 7 premium cruiser USS Wichita. Now, if you want to submit your gameplays for these community spotlight videos, our email address is down in the description. You can send in your own game captures, or in this case, Brandon actually sent me a link to one of his live streams. That will be carded top right now, but also on the end screen. Because it's from one of his live streams, I have obviously muted the background music, the gunfire, and the Azur lane confessions from Brandon from this. So if you want to get the full commentary, you can always go check out his live stream. That does mean that I probably have to put a little bit more effort when it comes to the commentary though. So today it's a game of domination on the Atlantic, a tier 6 and 7 game. On the enemy team we have a Benham, a Kagero, a Surrey, a Chapayev, a Suzuyu, a Duke of York, a KG5, a Bismarck and a Massachusetts. So knowing that the Wichita can bow tank up to and including 15-inch guns, and there's only one 16-inch gun ship on the enemy team, his armor scheme, as long as he stays bow in, is going to be very good. Obviously, if he shows broadside to anything, he could take the risk of being citadel, although the citadel on the Wichita is very small, or at least the portion of it which is above water is very small, although at long range you're probably going to be quite scared of plunging fire. On the friendly team, we have an Ishashio in division with a Cheshire, a Fletcher, an Albemarle, Brandon in the Wichita, and a KG5, a Colorado, Vladivostok, and a Bismarck. So, looking at how the teams are set up, I think Brandon's team probably has a slight advantage considering the number of, well, slightly more 16-inch gun battleships they have, and also considering the cruisers as well. So he spawned over on the left with a friendly Colorado and a friendly KG5. The Colorado's booked it to the center, leaving Brandon and the KG5 to try and deal with the alpha flank. Now, what's been spotted on the enemy team? Well, the Surrey's still here. The Suzuyu has broken off to the center. That leaves one more ship. It's a battleship. It's a Duke of York. That's not really that bad a matchup. So, obviously, there's the Surrey. Potentially could take advantage of the Surrey with armor piercing. It's just trying to work out what will happen. If the Duke of York pushes around the corner, then that could put Brandon into a bit of a pickle in regards to how he angles his armor, but we'll let that play out. Now, this flank does turn out to be quite a quiet flank, and actually it is quite a slow burner to the start of the game, although it does get very warm as things cook up later on. So while we're waiting for things to develop, we will actually cover the history of USS Wichita. So USS Wichita was a unique heavy cruiser of the United States Navy built in the 1930s. The last American cruiser designed to meet the limits of the London Navy Treaty. She was originally intended to be a New Orleans class cruiser with the triple 8-inch main battery. However, instead of these turrets being placed onto a New Orleans hull, they were placed onto a Brooklyn class light cruiser hull with increased armoring. If you want to reference that kind of hull, that would be the Boise and the Helena if you're interested. Now, this then formed the basis of what would later be the Baltimore class heavy cruiser. The reason why Wichita is the last NATO treaty compliant cruiser is because obviously once World War II kicked off, the treaties kind of went out the window. So obviously she was laid down in October 35. She was launched in November 37 and commissioned in February 39. And I guess after the intention would have been originally probably to do sea trials and see how this initial unique design went, and then develop something from there, which they very much did. However, with the treaties kind of being thrown out the window, that did give them more wiggle room of what they could what they could do, I guess you'd say, with the Baltimore class. Now, following her being commissioned, that's the Wichita that is, she started off with doing neutrality patrols in the Atlantic, protecting United States waters. Once the United States entered World War II, she saw heavy service throughout the conflict. She was first assigned to convoy escorts on the Murmansk run to Russia in early 1942. From there, she went on to support the amphibious landings during Operation Torch in North Africa, and in November 1942, during the naval battle of Casablanca, she engaged French coastal batteries and warships, including the battleship Jean Bart, which was only partially completed in Casablanca harbour and only had one turret fitted. In 1943, Wichita was transferred to the Pacific Theater, where she remained for the rest of the war. She frequently provided anti-aircraft defense for the Fast Carrier Task Force during the operations in the Central Pacific. During these operations, these included the battles of the Philippine Sea and Leyte Gulf in 1944. During the latter engagement, Wichita assisted in the sinking of the aircraft carrier Chiyoda. Now, Wichita was heavily engaged during the invasion of Okinawa, where she provided heavy gunfire support to the ground troops ashore. After the Japanese surrender, the ship served as part of the occupation force in Japan and assisted in the repatriation of American military personnel under Operation Magic Carpet. After returning to the United States, she was decommissioned and placed in the Mothball Fleet in 1947, where she remained in reserve until 1959. She was then sold for scrapping in August 1959. So far, what we have witnessed in this game is, firstly, where Brandon engaging the Surrey, but the kill being secured by someone else on the team, and then him assisting the KG-5 against the Duke of York, although the KG-5 ran out of HP. It must have got smacked about a little bit somewhere later down the line, and unfortunately decided to commit to the ram. Now that just leaves Brandon over here all alone on the very quiet flank, and he's rightfully going for the alpha cap. I mean, getting these caps in early is going to be helpful. Looking at the scores, his team is about 230 points ahead of the enemy team, and also have one more ship than the enemy team, with the enemy team losing 3 of their ships compared to the friendly team only losing 2. So he's a bit out of the action. If you look at the minimap, you'll notice that most of the enemy team is focused in that northeastern quarter of the map. So it's going to be a bit of a slow burner still. While we're taking a look at this game slowly developing, we can go over the modules. Now, he's being a bit stingy at the moment. At the time of this recording, the reason being is he's saving credits to complete some of his other tech trees. I think during the recording he mentions that he's trying to save up for the Benson. So modules wise, he's only taken Aim Systems Module 1 and Steering Gears Module 2, the other 2 slots being vacant, obviously taking the 2 cheapest slots. If I was going to recommend, I'd probably say swap Steering Gears Module 2 for propulsion mods, take the other steering gear mod in your 3rd slot, and then for your 4th slot, almost you could probably pick whatever you want, but I might consider something like main battery mod, which improves the main battery range. In regards to Commander, he's only just trying out this Commander literally for this playthrough, and he's given the Azur Lane Baltimore the Azur Lane Baltimore go. She's ranked up to level 7, so not that highly ranked. Skills taken: Burn It Down, XXL, Igniter, AP-solute ammunition, and Fixated. So obviously taking the HE burning potential, I guess you could say, taking abilities that improve the grouping and the rate of fire your guns, and then playing around that specialist trait of absolute or AP-solute ammunition. Inspiration wise, he's gone for von Müller levels, which is level 11, so just boosting up the speed of the cruiser. So also when you consider that Azur Lane's Baltimore base trait is improving the rudder shift, it should make for quite a manoeuvrable cruiser. So as you can now see, while we've been discussing his modules and his command build, the enemy team are now 5 versus 2. They've managed to really mop up some of Brandon's team, and so Brandon's team is about 40 points behind. So this is very precarious. Thankfully, they still hold on to 2 caps. Brandon is now almost racing in to try and help secure the Bravo cap. Looking at the enemy team, we have Massachusetts, which is quite low. If I recall, the 2 destroyers are actually quite low on HP wise. However, I think the Chapaya is about 3/4, and the KG-5 that's left on the enemy team actually does have a lot of HP left too. So he's opening fire on the Massachusetts with his high explosives, as he's spotted as he comes into the center. Now, if you do want to revisit his modules and his commander build, that will be down in the description, as the friendly Almore is sunk, which means that Brandon is now all alone. Basically his whole team now depends on him. Now, he did set a triple fire on the Massachusetts there. However, I suspect, yes, the Massachusetts has used its damage con. Now, he is spotted in the center here by an aircraft, probably launched by the KG-5, which means that he's in a precarious situation. Ironically, the only shell that comes through the island actually sets Brandon on fire. And as he comes round the corner, what do you not want to be seeing? Probably a full health KG5. That's the last thing you really want to be seeing. And he's now spotted again. And he's going to find himself in a very precarious situation as he's battle tanking against the KG5. The enemy Massachusetts appears on his broadside. Thankfully, the Massachusetts overleads. And so he's just got to see if he can finish off that Massachusetts. Setting a fire, but the Massachusetts instantly damaged cons, firing off wide turret to see if we can seal the deal. There we go, very nicely. So we're getting our first kill of the game. Now that just leaves the Chapayev, the Benham, and the Kagero. There's the Chapayev, and as you can see, she's managed to keep most of her HP. Now, as we're continuing to come around, we know the KG5 is going south, so that's not too bad. We should be able to keep that KG5 away from us. The Chapayev is broadside on. Torpedoes are passing to our rear, but thankfully not too much of a concern. Using AP on the side of the Chapayev, finally getting a Citadel, scoring 7,440 damage. Keeping angled against the Chapayev, which is firing HE, and obviously the Chapayev is, well, now set a triple fire. Passing to his stern is the enemy Kagero, which is on 5,000 HP. Damage conning the triple fire. Better hope there's no torpedoes in the water, although we did see some torpedoes go past earlier, so it's not too bad. Now, angling against the Chapayev as we try and bring A and B turrets online. Missing the torpedoes from the Chapayev and the Kagero, thankfully. The Kagero is laying a smokescreen, however, Brandon now has his radar turned on, and obviously the joys of the radar is now highlighted. The entire, or the rest of the enemy team, like I should say, everything excluding the Chapayev, is right behind him. So he's literally sandwiched between the Chapayev and the rest of the enemy team. Thankfully, he's getting defender ribbons here. And it's interesting to see, I think the enemy team get a little bit too cocky. They kind of think, we outnumber him, we're going to win this one. It's quite evident, probably by the way that this Kagero, you'll see that she actually leaves the cap. She's so focused on trying to secure the kill because it's only one ship, that she actually leaves the cap and leaves the capping to the KG5. Really starting to take a bit of a smacking from the Chapayev, which is probably being a bit more of a nuisance than Brandon would like it to be. Nice to see that the reload time on these guns is actually quite quick, so he's able to prioritise his target, switch to the Kagero, and mop up the Kagero, taking him up to kill number 3 as he just killed the Benham about a minute ago. So the Chapayev is still offering, trying to be kiting away, seems to be offering broadside and angling, offering broadside and angling. So potentially if you time your shots right and you switch to AP, you might be able to partially predict her actually turning out, because at the moment you're constantly firing HE at her, so she might get a little bit too comfortable with you firing HE at her. Although here she doesn't quite do it, she starts to kite the other way. Now, although you can bow tank against 15-inch guns, stern tanking is a bit more difficult with the Wichita because she has a transom stern. So because she has that transom stern, there's actually a fat bit of plating there rather than it being angled. So if you offer your stern directly to an enemy ship, you're almost as bad as offering complete broadside. So thankfully he's just wiggling his ship around, keeping it active, keeping it mobile, therefore probably throwing the aim of the KG5 off a bit. Firing HE, but switching finally over to AP as a turret is incapacitated permanently. So that reduces his DPM by 1/3. So with only 2 turrets, he fires off a volley of AP. And we're entering into the last minute of the game. The Chapayev kites out, takes a Citadel, and down she goes. So now it's a 1v1. So that is quite a turnaround. He's managed to get himself up to 72,000 damage. And now, with only 40 seconds on the clock, it's simply a case of, can we survive? Looking at the points, it's 770 points to the enemy's 430, say. And the KG5 even left the cap to try and chase him down, unfortunately. So he still has a 2 cap advantage. However, he's only got 4,500 HP. And if the KG5 magically finds his transom stern and can almost slap it into his Citadel, that could be end of game. With 10 seconds left on the clock, the KG-5 is probably just about to load A and B turret. There they come. Hopefully dodging, thankfully dodging as well, and that should be a wrap. There you go. So taking a look at the end screen, he's managed to do 77,500 damage, get 4 kills from 116 hits on target, 2 citadels, 8 fires, and 29 secondary hits as well. Managed to shoot down 1 aircraft as well, get a solo capture, and 13 defender ribbons. I think those 13 defender ribbons have probably saved the day and stopped the enemy actually capping the Bravo cap. Getting fireproof and solo warrior as well. Looking at the scores, coming in top of his team with about a 940 ship XP advantage over the next best player on his team. The start of the game was very slow, however, he managed to deal with what was on his plate at the end of the game and managed to turn it around, which is, well, probably saved the day, I guess you could say. Going to the economy screen, he's managed to make 494,000 credits from a premium account and a epic credit booster. The ship service cost in this case was 144,000 credits. Well, if you have enjoyed this community spotlight video, this amateur report, then feel free to give the video a thumbs up. Down in the description is the command build and modules used by Brandon, as well as the email address to the channel if you want to send in your own game captures, and the link to Patreon if you want to support the channel on Patreon, as this is a non-monetized channel. Until next time, I'm the Gaff Major, and back to the port.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there,